Welcome to The Explainer. Today we're jumping into a really powerful sermon that talks about something it calls spiritual slumber. This is a state of being that, according to the source, can literally hijack a person's entire destiny. So, right off the bat, the source material hits us with this really provocative question. Can you be asleep while you are wide awake? Now, this isn't about lying in bed, not at all. It's about a state that's much deeper than physical rest. The idea here is that a person can be driving their car, dancing, living their life, but be completely asleep to what truly matters. So, what exactly is this spiritual slumber? Well, the source defines it as a kind of spiritual blindness, like you're disconnected from a deeper reality. It's a state where you just lack discernment, causing you to see everything through a totally natural or carnal lens. It means you're just unable to pick up on the spiritual signals that could be guiding your entire life. And look, the source material doesn't mince words about the stakes here. It quotes scripture to frame this as a fundamental choice between two very different ways of being. To be carnally minded is described as death. On the other hand, to be spiritually minded is life and peace. It's a really powerful contrast that just underscores how serious this slumber is supposed to be. The stakes, according to the source, incredibly high. The sermon presents this slumber not as some minor issue, but as the full-blown crisis of destiny. Let's dig into what it describes as the consequences of this sleep, which it basically calls a perversion of the world as it was meant to be. And this just brilliantly illustrates that upside-down reality. The source uses this powerful imagery to show a world that's been completely flipped. It claims that while people are asleep, their God-given programs get edited and perverted. The very people meant for leadership are reduced to servitude, all because their true purpose was stolen from them. And to be really clear, the consequences described here are catastrophic. We're talking about original destinies getting totally rewritten. Life-changing guidance is just missed because there's zero energy for spiritual things. A person becomes a slave to their own basic desires, and in the end, they lose their rightful place in the world. You know, the sermon warns that nature abhors a vacuum. The second you leave your post, someone else is going to step right in. Okay, so if this slumber is so incredibly dangerous, what causes it? Well, the source outlines a specific strategy it claims it used to put people into this spiritual sleep. It identifies 4 weapons, or maybe sedating agents, that are designed to keep people from ever waking up. And here they are: deception, lust, distraction, and sin. These are presented as the primary tools. For example, a person could spend days in prayer and fasting, building up all this spiritual energy, only to come back and drain it all in a few minutes just by scrolling through social media, filling their spirit with junk. These things work together to keep people from waking up to their true purpose. But the narrative doesn't just leave us in a state of helplessness. After laying out the problem, the source proposes a powerful, singular force as the antidote. It calls this the key to awakening from this deep slumber, the power of hunger. Now, this is a really key point. According to the sermon, the turning point in this whole thing isn't something a person can just generate on their own. Nope, it's presented as a divine power that gets injected right into a person's spirit. And this quote, wow, it just brilliantly illustrates the solution. The source describes a God-given spiritual hunger, this overwhelming thirst for something more. This hunger is presented as a law in the spirit. You can't break it. And it's what pulls you out of corruption and into God's presence. So this hunger, it's framed as an absolutely unstoppable force. The source describes a thirsty deer that can smell water for miles and will risk running into crocodiles just to get a drink. It says that in the exact same way, this spiritual hunger is a power that breaks a person's will, yanks them out of slumber, and propels them toward their destiny, overriding everything else. Okay, so what's the ultimate purpose of waking up? The source suggests it's not just about being awake for its own sake. This spiritual hunger, it serves as the fuel for you to embark on a crucial journey, a journey toward your destiny. See, this hunger isn't the end goal. It's the fuel for the journey. Its whole purpose is to build the spiritual energy you need to travel where you need to go in the spirit realm. Without that energy, you can't journey. And if you can't journey, you just stay stuck right where you are. Now, the source material claims that key blessings, things like favor, wisdom, and influence, they aren't just handed out. They actually reside in specific spiritual locations. A person has to use their built-up energy to journey to these places. And if you can't make the journey yourself, this perspective says you have to buy from those who have, which puts you in a position of dependency.
So this lays out the final path. First, hunger builds your spiritual energy. Second, you use that energy to journey in the spirit. And third, by traveling to these spiritual locations, you claim the parts of the destiny you were always meant to have.
So in essence, this perspective argues that your external life, what people see on the outside, is a direct reflection of your internal spiritual travels. What you see happening in a person's life is just a revelation, a testimony of the places they've already been to in the spirit. I will end with this final thought from the source material. It's a question that really challenges each of us to look inward and consider our own path, to ask what sedating agents might be at play in our own lives, and what it would take to awaken that hunger for the unseen journey that might be waiting for us.